about today's subject. I've been myself an entrepreneur for the last 14 years. And I think in this day and age, a lot of people are looking at creative ways to generate additional revenue from home. And there's a lot of different opportunities out there. A lot of people are looking at franchises because they have existing systems in place that people can leverage to generate additional income. Of course, we have the internet, a lot of opportunities there. And so I'm really excited to actually go out to a subject matter expert to talk about the 5 areas to evaluate anytime you look at a home-based business opportunity. And so our guest speaker today is an individual who reigns from the beautiful city of Sunnyvale, California, herself with almost 20 years as a home-based business owner, but pretty much been an entrepreneur her entire life. So she's also a multiple 6-figure earner in her company. And that income has given her the ability to be just an incredible philanthropist. She's actually co-authored a book, a women's anthology book, which is a #1 best-selling book on Amazon called Women Can, Stepping Out of Mediocrity and Into Your Purpose. And what I absolutely love about this project is the fact that she's donating all the revenue that's generated from these book sales to a not-for-profit organization. As a matter of fact, right now I believe it's a orphanage down in Guatemala that's handled by Work Play Love, a nonprofit organization headquartered down there. She's also been, due to her expertise, been invited as a co-contributing author to the Go for No series. This book particularly focused on the network marketing industry. So without further ado, I'd love to reach out so you can hear a little bit about her from her point of view. Ms. Kai Deering.
Well, thank you so much, Chris Warden. We have had a long history of entrepreneurship together, and it's such an honor and a privilege to have worked with you for, gosh, a decade now, I think has been. It's just time flies. And we originally met up here in the Bay Area. I make my home a Hale in Northern California. And you were in Monterey at the time, and our worlds collided, and we've done a lot of collaborations ever since. So, and crisscrossed the globe together. I know you're a world traveler, entrepreneur extraordinaire as well. And thank you so much for your 11-year service in the Army. It's just been a lot of fun to be able to work with you. It's funny because I think my story is a lot like a lot of people's story. I did the corporate route. I'm sure many of our listeners here today have done the corporate thing. And I found myself making some excellent money. In fact, that's how I ended up in Northern California. Was I got transferred with a really excellent sales position, making a multiple 6 figures in sales. But man, if you know anybody or you've made a multiple 6-figure, it comes at a high price. I was working a whole lot of hours. And then my last job, I had a boss who was, I don't know if you can relate to this. It was a woman boss who didn't like women. And I was their top producer in that office. I was like top 3 or 4 in the whole company. It was, all over North America. And she fired me, and I was flabbergasted. She actually asked me, Chris, to come in her office. And I said, should I bring my purse? And she was like, yeah, that'd be a really good idea. And I was like, oh, snap, I'm getting fired. So I went in there, and I remember just kind of like my jaw dropping, like, am I really getting fired right now? I was like, all right. So, but, sometimes when bad things happen, it ends up being, your tragedy ends up being your destiny. And I was actually grateful for her because she really kicked me into a curb, if you will, where I just made a decision. I'm like, you know what, if I'm going to be commission sales anyway, I'm going to go do my own thing and be my own boss and at least I could never fire myself. Right. And I know you've taken a hand at being an entrepreneur as well. But the problem, and I'd love for you to speak to this too, when you own a business, that it owns you because you've got to do it all. Like you got to figure out the website, the marketing, like you said, the legal and this and that, and employees and overhead and insurances and all these things. And it's like, by the end of it, when it was said and done, I mean, truly, I was working more hours than I was when I was doing something for corporate. And I was like, I'd like to go back to corporate now if I could, but I was so stale by then that there's just no way anyone would have taken me. And I really felt stuck. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do this forever. And so I started looking at other type of ventures, like where they did most of the heavy lifting. And it was looking like a lot of franchises. There's a lot of insurance companies like Allstate, Farmers, things like that, where they do, all the advertising, all the heavy lifting for you. And I was looking at some of those, right, when I started my own thing. And I ended up doing my own thing. And I know it was a nightmare, honestly. I was really lonely. I was the only one there. And so I went back to revisit some of those models. And so I've kind of seen them all since I've been in the home-based business profession for 19 years. But I've been totally self-employed for at least 5 before that, 100% commission, waiting tables, like I said, before that, selling shish kebabs and things like that at dead shows before that. So, I've always had kind of a hustle mentality, but I really do love the fact that our home-based business industry really, if we put our energy, our, connections, our kind of creativity to their system, it really does make for you to be able to have a balance and get your life back. You do have to work hard, but you could do the stuff that you love to do, like things like this. And tell us about, your first venture and how much of a nightmare that was too, because you had a record label.
Yeah, absolutely. When I got out of the Army, I'd actually took a look at what I wanted to do. I wasn't really confident. I was applying for jobs, truth be told, here, there, and everywhere. And, not unlike today, the job market was really saturated. I found that even at that time, for a 6-figure position, there were hundreds of applicants, and they had no idea how to filter through all those. So I kind of followed a childhood dream of mine, which was to start a video production company, and almost simultaneously resurrected a defunct jazz record label. And so, having no experience, it was kind of learn as I go. So it was definitely some pitfalls that I wish I would have known about to navigate.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because I wish I would have picked something like this sooner, but everything in life is a learning curve. And I thought it was really interesting that this is where I ended up. And in fact, what happened was I didn't really even know I was looking, kind of like you know what I mean? And I know Art came up to you and talked to you about it, and you needed legal help because our business we're in is illegal in nature. But I needed help just because I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't know there was another way. And ironically, the company that we work for now, I was already a member of the services, and it just made a lot of sense, and I went to work for them. But since then, we've always talked about the 5 areas that you want to evaluate. So I want to share this with you because it's going to take a lot of years and a heartache off of our next entrepreneurs, because I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there right now that are like, man, I'd love to buy a franchise. I'd love to, work for even a real estate company, right? An insurance company. So how do you know if you're in the right direction? And one of the things that we talked about is always you want to make sure that you evaluate the company. So there's 5 areas. First area, and not necessarily in any order, except for I think timing, the one we're going to go over the last, is the most important, is really, is the company going to be here today and here tomorrow? And there's a real sexy thing to want to be with a startup, right? I feel like that people get, oh my gosh, ground floor, Chris Ward, because I know since we've been on top of our game in our companies, every real estate, insurance, other network marketing companies, other home-based businesses, they're always hitting us up. And I've never been tempted to jump, but I do look at that, and a lot of their pitch will come as startup, Bitcoin, you're going to be on the ground floor, and I'm like, eek. So I make my home in Silicon Valley, and I saw the .com and the .bomb. That was way back in the day when there were socks.com and they failed, and just anything at all was a startup. And the stats are really staggering, and I may have these not 100% correct, but it's like 95% of startups fail in the first 5 years, and it's something like 98% fail in the first 10 years. And we've seen, right, Chris Ward, in this weird economy, because large legacy retail companies, restaurant chains go out of business because it's just it doesn't always matter if it's a startup or a long-term company. There's risk in everything for sure, but just for me personally, I've seen a lot more risk on the startup side than I have in the well-established companies. And part of it is it's like they're fumbling along, figuring out the systems. And I have a lot of friends that are in startups right now. And so they're like, let's say they're selling clothes on a startup. I have a friend who's in one of those. And the website crashes all the time. I mean, because it's just not set up. They don't have the infrastructure. They break the internet. They're like, oh, wow. So there's probably an argument for both. But we just want to make sure that if you look at the company, not only just the longevity of the company, but the second part of that is you want to look at their management team. Who is really at the helm of what you're working on. And, I'm not going to use any company names, but I have another friend who was talking about a company. Would you help me give me your opinion on this company? And I went and looked at it, and Chris Ward, their CEO and founder, had some serious white collar crime convictions prior, right? So I was like, did you know this? And they're like, oh, wow. And then when you're thinking about just like, who are you going to, if you're going to work really hard, because I know you're going to work hard at anything that's going to be your own business, you just want to make sure that, one, your reputation, if it's going to be on the line, that you've got something that's reputable, right? The company and the management team is something that you align with. For me, it's really about mission. I know that is for you too, Chris. We call ourselves social justice kind of crusaders. So it's really important that it not be something frivolous. Because over the years, I've sold things, represented things that I just didn't really care about, but maybe the compensation plan was killer. And so that is also a danger as well, which leads me to the second part of this. Is there anything you want to add to on the company before we go on to the second part of this?
No, I think you absolutely nailed it with the management team being critical component to it, because as you see in a lot of those startups, we've evaluated companies in the legal side of the house where the board of directors didn't even know they were in the board of directors. People were just using their names to gain credibility for their startup, but in one of the pictures they had a gentleman who wasn't associated with the picture. So they had a great website, they looked authentic, but they were definitely up to some shady business. So.
Yeah. And I feel for people, because we talk to people all the time that started with, a company where maybe their ideals didn't align, and they kind of just said, ignored their gut and just went for it anyway, because they liked the comp plan or the products and things like that. And so, for me, I've been with the same company for 19 years, and I know I see KK, my friend KK over there too. And, she's been with her insurance company for 22 years, and her father was there for 30 years before that. Like, that's the kind of legacy I want to leave, where it's generational. That, like I said, her and her dad have been there 55 years. Like, those are the types of companies that I want to put my blood, sweat, and tears into, because gosh, just to have the rug pulled out from underneath you at any time is really dangerous. And so, but we talked about, like, maybe somebody has, let's talk about the products and the services that something offers, because at the end of the day, a lot of companies offer the same types of products and services. I know our company is very unique in that there's not a lot of competition for what we're up to. There is some, for sure. I'm not naive enough to think that. But I think if you found a company and you align with the management team and they've been there a long time, and if you want to do the sexy startup thing, the Bitcoin, by all means, I'm not saying don't do that. But if you're looking for that legacy company, and you've aligned yourself there with the all of that, then it's number two is, what are they offering? And you really want to make sure and evaluate and be smart about it, because a lot of these companies play on your emotion, right? Hype you up, and not always telling the truth about this and that. And so it's just, be really careful that the product is something that resonates with you. No offense, Chris Ward. I'm certain you don't want to be in a health and wellness company where they offer skincare, because you're not going to come over to my house and say, hey, Kai, I want to give you a facial. Would you agree? Like, that product's not going to really align with who you are and what you're all about. And I know you're really into social justice as well. So it has to be something that you can align with, that you are in love with. And I see my friend Lulu here as well. And I know, she's with a company that does jewelry, and she loves the jewelry. It's got jewelry that means something, and you can put your kids' birthstones in it and all kinds of things. So, as long as the product is something that you can stand behind. So a couple things on the product. You want to make sure, number one, your competition. Sometimes these home-based business companies, you can have a lot of competition, because if you're in nutrition, unfortunately, where can you get nutrition, Chris Ward? Like, if I want a vitamin, where can I get it?
No, everywhere. Just go down to Walgreens,
Costco, GNC, Amazon. And I don't know that I want to participate in something that has that much competition. And some of these companies we've even seen, Chris, where, they're even competing against their own distributors that are quitting. And then now they've got stuff on, Etsy, or not Etsy, but eBay. They're selling their products on eBay because, they couldn't sell it to all their friends and family. They're garage qualified with all these things, and now they're expiring on their shelves and all that. So just be really mindful if it's a product, I'm not saying don't do a product company, but like how much inventory is it going to cost you? There's a clothing one where you've got to invest a few $1,000s every single time. And so you want to just make sure that it's something that everybody needs, everybody can afford, because sometimes some of these items are legitimately cost more through your home-based business or your franchise because they got to fuel a marketing system. And that's a real challenge too, because, you know, if you were competing against like an Amazon, you know, shopping center for the same types of products. Now, certainly most of the home-based business products, the reason they're home-based business is because they have superior products. They really do. I mean, and I shop a lot from home-based business. Am I wearing anything from home-based business? Usually I am. I'm wearing, like, as I shop from other businesses and try to promote them as well. I do a on the fly with Kai where I interview, you know, business owners. So I want to help them. So just make sure that the product really resonates with what you're doing. It's not everywhere else, that you don't have a lot of competition. And it's something that you could really hold your head up high and be proud about bringing it to the marketplace, your friends and families, and really neighbors. So Chris, I don't know if you want to add anything, because you've seen it all too. We constantly are getting hit up. What was the last one we got was run my real estate company, do all my sales and training for my real estate. I got one of those recently. And I was like, yeah, no, it's not going to work. What about you, Chris?
No, and I think you nailed it right there. And it's just looking for a product and service. It seems like a lot of people are trying to create the better mousetrap. So I see a lot of people that are starting to like design the masks for going out in the community. I was like, you know, I think we're already a year into it. It's kind of semantics now about how your mask is better than all the other masks that are available on the market. And yeah, you can make it match with your wardrobe. You know, you can make, you know, there's a million different little things. Like you said, in the health and wellness industry, there's my ingredient in my product is better than your ingredient in your product. And so at a certain point, you just kind of get into semantics. So absolutely appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, and you don't want to be in a knockoff company that's easy to knock off. And you know what? Let's talk about, there's some technology home-based business companies out there. And there's a real danger in the technology arena as well, because let's say you really do have an incredible technology, some sort of a wearable, whatever. And let me just tell you, if you're a home-based business and maybe you're a startup, you're not going to have the same kind of budget as Apple. And if Apple likes what you're up to, they will bury you. I mean, their funds are endless. So I'm really leery of technology companies that are startups that are in the home-based business arena. They make me a little uncomfortable as well. And like I said, some of the lotions, potions, clothing, things like that make me a little nervous as well. I have a big heart for service, because obviously that's the type of company that you and I are in, is service. But I like the service type company because then you don't have a trunk full of stuff melting, right? You're not retailing out of your garage. I mean, it's kind of nice. I know we've got some people on this platform right now that are in service, and they're going like this. Yeah, so I hear you on that. So that leads me to kind of the third thing was really, we've hit on this a little bit with the product. What's the need out there? What's the penetration? And like, if you look at like, a real estate, you're going to partner up and with a real estate company, it's really important that, you know, the need of where you're at. There's times where there's ebbs and flows, right? In real estate, it's all about location. Business is all about timing. We're going to talk about that as well. But do some market analysis. So with regards to, we've got some folks that do reverse mortgages. You know, what is the market share eligibility out there? What is the share if you're going into long-term care? I also am a little leery of service companies that are heavily related to government legislation. And I'm not going to say any company names, but like solar makes me really uncomfortable, because you could be in business one day, out the next day, because that's legislation based. So the need might be great out there. I love solar. I think it's a really good, opportunity, but one day it's got discounts and rebates and the next day it doesn't. And you don't own them, or you do own them. It's just, I don't want to be in a profession that, and I actually sold healthcare insurance. And one of the things I didn't like that either was that I was at the whim of who was in the office. They could make business decisions that would put me potentially out of business, right? And so I don't like companies where they're highly regulated and legislated too, where you could literally be out of business depending on who's in office. So the need out there, you need a product that everybody needs, everybody can afford, and they just don't know it exists. And then that way you're in the education. So that's a position of strength. If I have something that is like I said, everybody needs, everyone can afford, but now I'm in the education business. I'm not really in the sales business. That's where I want to be in. I don't want to be banging heads with another 3,000 companies, another 10,000 agents in different companies. I want to be able to know that what I'm offering you're not using, but what I'm offering is showing you. And they talk about this all the time. And these are really disruptive innovators. And so there's a big need, and that's why that's such a buzzword, because if you're a disruptive innovator, you can make millions and millions and millions, and you don't really have any competition. So you don't have to create your industry, you don't have to start your profession, but you have to disrupt it. And some really big ones we always talk about, Chris Ward, is like Amazon, right? They didn't create the retail space, but they disrupted it and put a lot of retail on notice, like, put some big retailers out of business because they disrupted it. I really like, how Netflix and Spotify disrupted entertainment, right? They didn't create it, they disrupted it. Good or bad or ugly, Uber did the exact same thing as well, right? Like they disrupted the transportation business model. To a big extent, VRBO was first to the market, but they kind of lost their market share because they couldn't identify how they were positioned in the marketplace, and Airbnb came in and smacked them. And that disrupted the way that we, travel. And so, it's interesting that, you just got to be smart about it. You just really got to be smart about it. But the need out there has to be really big. And so, yeah, if someone just said, auto insurance, yeah, everybody's going to need auto insurance. And there's always going to be somebody turning 16. And that would be a number I'd want to know. Like, how many people in the world in the United States are turning 16 every day or every year? Because then you have an expanding market, right? If you're in the senior arena, right, you want to know kind of what are the trends with the, baby boomers now aging out. Like, these are the types of things you want to ask yourself. Like for us, we got a statistic, we're in the legal arena. 52% of all households, according to the American Bar Association, have some sort of a legal situation. And there's no other really way to fill that void. So that's why I'm saying you just want to do your homework on what is the need for what you're offering out there. And then if it's, honestly, Chris, I've been here in my company for 19 years and I've seen .com, .bomb, I've seen, the mortgage meltdown, and now we're seeing, this. And, sometimes frivolous things that are luxury items too, be really cautious of those because the need is now, but maybe not always. But is there anything you want to add to on really evaluating the need in the marketplace?
Yeah, one of my favorite talks that I saw Bill Gates do was at the Consumer Technology Association, CES, and it's been a number of years ago. And he was kind of prophetic, and he recognized the fact that companies that fulfill a need, not a want, are going to be the ones that really thrive in this new economy. And this is even prior to what's gone on in 2020. And you started to talk about it there was when you were looking at not just the need in the marketplace, but the size of your market. So if you get into luxury items that only the top 5% of the income bracket are willing to purchase, you can make a lot of money there. But it may be a challenge to get into those markets right now. I mean, the car lots, for some odd reason, did really well last year. But it's very difficult to get a job at a car lot because of all the people that lost their jobs, and then they had to downsize their workforce on the lots just due to the restrictions of how many people they could have in the office. So yeah, those are incredible to look at. When I ran my jazz record label, I recognized the fact that there was only a 1% market for jazz in the world. And I don't know why at the time that kind of excited me but I would have had to have tapped into that entire 1% market to really be wealthy. And so that's why there's not a lot of wealthy jazz producers out there. So yeah, looking at not only the need in the market, but what is the size of your market is critical. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and you also mentioned just like niche products, right? So the jazz was very much of a niche product, and I'd rather be with something where more of the masses could use it. But if you're in love with it, let's say it's I got a friend who sells. It's kind of neat. They do airplane share. So like everyone pools in airplanes. He loves aviation. He loves jets, and he's just like super excited about it. Now that's certainly a niche market, right? Can't wait till we can participate at that level. But certainly, if you love it, then all bets are off. So, but just be smart when you're picking. And so we've gone over kind of the company, right? We've gone over the products, we've gone over the need, and then we want to talk about the compensation plan because, there's a lot of compensation out there. And the number one thing when I picked health insurance back in the day, okay, so I looked at a lot of different business models. When I got fired, right, I was like, okay, I want to do something. And I wanted something, and that word residual income, I had just started hearing about it. And I was like, ooh, I want me some of that, right? Like that was really important to me. And so I went on a quest to kind of figure out what is it, how do you do it? Because I wanted to do something once and get paid over and over and over and over again for that transaction or that thing. And really there was a few professions that could do that. One, common is author. Well, I'm certainly not going to do that, even though I did get that chapter in the best-selling book, Go for No for the Network Marketer, because I didn't own that book, right? I did it for credibility and some other reasons. There's other reasons why you do it. And the book that we just wrote that I just had it here, the Giving book, right? Women Can. It's a giving book. We're not taking anything for it. 100% of it's going to charity. So, and I'm not a very good writer. I have a little bit of dyslexia. So I certainly wasn't going to be doing that. The music profession and the entertainment industry gets residual income, right? So you sing a song once, you get paid over and over again. I think it's always been said that Elvis has been dead, but he makes more money now than he did when he was alive. I know I look a little bit like Mariah Carey. Some of you can't see me right now, but I certainly don't sing like her. I was kind of priced out of entertainment, or not priced out of, but I was locked out of entertainment. I was locked out of, singing and all these other things. So the only other thing that could offer that would be subscription-based, right? Service, because some people think that they have residual income, but let me just really clarify this. If you have, a buying club where people are going to buy from you every single month and they're getting an auto ship, that is not, if you really look at the clear definition, because I get a lot of these folks that come after me and say, hey, come sell my product. We've got this killer thing. People are an auto ship. They're spending an average of, $250 a month at our shopping mall or things like that. That is not true residual income. True residual income is subscription-based. So let me give you an example. I'm going to use KK because she's here. It's auto insurance. That's true residual. They're going to pay it every month, not even think about it, right? Because a lot of times if you're on the auto ship, if they stop working that business, they cancel their auto ship. So it's a discount buying club. The reason that they're an associate or work for the company, sometimes they have no intention of ever marketing it, but they like the products or programs and they want to get the discount. So be really clear on that is not residual income. A good example of residual income that we can't participate in is like Netflix, but everybody's paying for it. So these subscription-based type of industries are the best. And typically we're not allowed to participate in those, right? Like we're always on the other end of it, paying it out. So if you want residual income, and if that's important to you, which it is important to me because, I keep picking on KK because she's on here, but she bought her father's practice. It was generational as well. So I wanted a comp plan where you could will it to people. They could purchase it from you. They could, it's a real business. And sometimes, there's a lot of insurance type companies where you don't own your book of business, where the company actually owns it. I wouldn't do that either. Like that just wouldn't make sense to me. So, looking at the compensation plan, is it true residual income? Do you actually own the book of business? Can you actually sell it? Will it? Things like that. Does it require them having insurance? Where can you sell it? There's a lot of, restrictions when you're looking at a service or insurance type products, because can you sell it? Like I got friends in Oregon, could I sell it out of state? So that was part of my challenge with insurance, was I knew a lot of people everywhere and I just couldn't do it everywhere given my bandwidth, right? So a lot of people can be licensed everywhere and do it. So I like service. I like true residual, subscription based is what the word you're looking for, right? On there. And then I love the fact, like if you can do subscription and you can do, an upfront, I call it advanced commissions. That's fantastic too, because what that does is it basically gives you an interest-free loan. So check the compensation plan. A lot of times they're not going to charge you for that. Life insurance can do that as well. They'll give you a 1-year advance commission and then you'll get residuals. Some of them are declining renewals. So be sure to watch that, because you sell it once, it's not true residual level forever. It's for the first 5 years or the first decade or the first whatever. Again, consumables are not residuals. I want to be really clear on that. But subscription based is. Chris, I know you've had a lot of experience with that, so I'd like to have you weigh in on income as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's what, I mean, when you talk about the compensation, we looked at the time I was doing album downloads. So this was back before the stream. I mean, you want to talk about just bad decisions all the way around. We decided to record jazz record labels. And then at the time, they started switching from people buying albums and CDs to doing digital downloads. So we do $9.99 digital downloads. Well, the streaming services have completely wiped out. You know, when was the last time you downloaded an MP3? Never. Everybody pays for Pandora. You know, myself, I pay for YouTube subscription. That way I have complete access to their entire library, which is basically bottomless. I've never found an end to Pandora or any of the other subscription services. So, and with the consumables, I've been on the back end of that too, where, you know, I'll never forget, like I bought this, there was something that was supposed to help strengthen your mental awareness. And I got into a subscription of it, and I wasn't consuming it as fast as it was coming in. So I had to stop the subscription because now I'm like 6 bottles deep into this product. I was like, I'm not going to consume this if I'm just gauging off the rate of it. So I canceled my subscription. And to truth be told, if anything is obligatory annual, like that I have to sign up for a year, I don't do it. So I'm only doing month to month, because if I try your product or service and I don't like it, I'm canceling it right away.
Yeah, and I think you hit on something again, which is that technology piece. I don't want to have anything to do with technology, because like downloading MP3s, it's passe now. Imagine if you were in a franchise that could duplicate CDs, right? I mean, like you're out of luck right now. So it moves too fast for me, and it freaks me out. Like I totally agree with that. And then the consumables, you bring up a really good point on that, because how many people here have like vitamins that are expired in their closet right now, right? Like it's you want, and I love it. You mentioned audibles, like what a great business model, subscription based, right? I used to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on audiobooks. I still have them right here, and some of them are cassette tapes, and I'm like, I spent $500 for that Tony Robbins cassette tape. I can't get rid of it. So anyway, just really think about your compensation plan and how does it work, and does it make sense, and evaluate it. And I would highly recommend too that an attorney review it too, just because there's things in there maybe that you haven't seen. And then the fourth area and my fifth area, and my favorite area to talk about, is timing, because the T in timing is way more important than the T in talent in every conceivable way. And it's funny. I have a friend, kind of a friend of a friend. We used to go to dead shows and hang out a lot. And I'll never forget, we were at a party one time and he was like, oh, I just went to work for Google. And we were like, Google schmoogle, what's that? Like we kind of made fun of him and hazed him a little bit. And we're like, that's silly. What does it do? And he says, well, it's this search engine thing. And we're like, oh, that'll never work. That's just silly. Now, Google, literally, I'm in Silicon Valley. If I go outside my door, it takes up like the next 2 exits north of me, every campus, everywhere. And so what was interesting was it was his timing. Now check this out. He was employee number 138. And he was a chef. Now, I'm assuming he's a really good chef, just so you know. I mean, he went to culinary school, and expensive culinary school, but he's a multi-millionaire now. And it had way more to do with his timing than it did his talent, right? Because you could be an incredible chef and get started with Google today, and you'd be an employee now number 138,000. And it's not the same opportunity as it was, when we were coming out of college and laughing about Google. And now, you could still work there. You could be the best chef on the planet, and it just wouldn't matter. You're not going to put yourself in a position like he was because of his timing. And I think that's super important. So you're like, well, Kai, this negates the startup versus the, legacy company. I'm so confused. I get it. I totally get what you're saying. And I appreciate the confusion there. And I'm going to address this for just a little bit. So it was said that if you really think about the multi-millionaires that have been created just really on the planet today, right? They have pretty much one thing in common. And my mentor taught me this, and I've seen it over and over and over again. They really have one thing in common. They got started before a company was really a household name before everybody had it, before everybody knew what they were. And that's really what we're talking about. But you don't have to be a startup to kind of be in that position. Okay. So let me give you an example. When a company first starts out, there's 4 stages of growth. And the first area of growth is formulation. And that's where these 95% of all these companies fail, is in those first 5 years, because it's formulation. Somebody's going to knock them off, right? Apple's going to come in and smack you and knock you off, or, you know, you're not going to be able to figure out your systems, or your user experience is going to be so inferior because you crashed it. Your systems aren't working, you know, everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And that's stage number 1, is that really that formulation stage. And then stage number 2, and all companies that survive and thrive go through this, is what we call concentration. And that's where, you know, they're getting all kinds of customers, and, you know, it's just a very short window of time where, like, all of a sudden it seems like things are overnight. And so, thanks, KK. So what happens is, in that position, is that's kind of like we're Uber, right? So, like, everyone's like, Uber this, we're like Clubhouse right now, right? Like, everyone's Clubhouse, you're starting to get all the buzz, but not everybody's using it. Not everybody's on it. Not everybody understands what it is yet. Right? That's the concentration stage. It's only been around 6 months. The third stage that happens, and this is where, if you hit it right, you want to go before a company goes into all out massive momentum. So if they've made it through the formulation stage, that 5%, they've made it through concentration, which I think it's Clubhouse is just a good example of that, right? If they can, you know, keep getting their subscribers, they're going to go out to all out massive momentum. If you think about it, just if we're talking about social media, you know, my mom got so the fourth area is stabilization, right? Where companies kind of tried and true, and everybody has it. Like Uber is in stabilization. My mom had a Facebook account, right? Party's over. By the time my mom gets a Facebook account, you know, you don't really want to buy stock in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, party's over, right? So there is this magic window of time between concentration, momentum, where you want to get started with a company. And that's sort of like, if you could buy stock right now, let's say in Clubhouse, this would be the time to do it, right? And this is, and like Zoom did the same thing. Remember, they were kind of, you know, in this whole formulation stage. Then I think, Chris, you and I are always kind of early adopters to things. We kind of like that stuff. I think it's kind of fun. So we were on Zoom before everybody else went, right? Then it went through COVID and it was on huge momentum. And now it's stabilization. If you got a referral fee for referring people to Zoom, good luck, you wouldn't be able to eat because everyone's already got it now, right? So there really is kind of a cool timing, and you want to hit it right. So it's interesting that it's been said that it was like 99% of all multi-millionaires got started on a company before the all-out momentum reached stabilization, because it's been said that your income, like my friend from Google, your income can tenfold with very little effort on your behalf. Why? Because of timing. And so I say that to say, when you're evaluating, you know, a franchise, a home-based business, and, you know, whatever it is, a real estate company, it's difficult sometimes to hit that. So give you an example, like, you know, I'll just give you our company. Our company is a 48-year-old company that has gone through concentration, and it's right now at the early throes of momentum, which means that, you know, it's been, all the bugs are figured out. It's got the systems in place, but it's at the point that we call it the tipping point. If you've ever read Gladwell's the Tipping Point, he talks a lot about this, that, you know, it comes to a point where just enough influencers, enough mavens, enough folks are really using it, talking about it, that it goes into this all out massive momentum. And so it's exciting to be a part of that, but hitting that and getting it right can be tricky. So just, that's another thing, is to really talk about timing of whatever your product, company, and positioning is out there. And I know, Chris, you probably have some comments on that, because we talk a lot about timing, and I coach a lot of people about, hey, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at that. I got a guy right now looking at Bitcoin, and I'm a little on the edge on that one, because, you know, is that concentration, but, you know, it hasn't gone into all out massive momentum. Will it? I don't know. You know, there's a lot of shady characters around there. So I don't know if that's something I want to align myself with, but I help a lot of people, like, kind of like, hi, I'm looking at this. What do you think? Like the solar thing and like the other thing. So I'm the jury's out on that one for me, but Chris, you want to share?
Absolutely. So one of our mutual mentors had once defined vision as knowing where everybody's going to go and being there first. Yet on the backside, as you addressed, I was just speaking with a real estate developer because one of my interests, kind of long term, is to get into designing 100% net zero energy homes from industrial hemp. It's a brilliant idea, but there's no market for it right now. So he said the concern you want, especially, he goes, you do not want to be the first person to market for any product or service, because this is where you go into entrepreneurial poverty, trying to prove this new product, because yes, it's a brilliant idea and I think it'll be adapted one day. But if I went out and talked to 1,000 people that want to build a home, no one is going to ask for it to be built from industrial hemp. It's just largely an ignorant marketplace. So it'll take years. So that's something you want to tread into. So yes, I think it's an idea of the future, but by no means would I start in that business today, because I would go broke trying to prove to everybody that this is the wave of the future.
Yeah, and we laughed. Remember when fax machines were a thing? And we always said, like, you know, could you imagine selling a fax machine before everyone had it? You'd be like, listen, you got to get this thing and you can put paper through it and then it'll come through on the other. It was quite revolutionary at the time. But you'd be like, well, who would I fax? Like you and me. You know what I mean? Like that's a tough gig right there. Well, the two of us can fax each other. So, but, you know, by the time it hit that concentration where, you know, and that magic number, just so you know, is about 2 to 4% market penetration. So as soon as like a fax machine hit 2 to 4% market penetration, it started going into all out massive momentum. Same thing with Clubhouse, same thing with IG, same thing with social media. Whenever a product or a service or, you know, social media or Uber or whatever, or Netflix, right? They, like, you think about something like Netflix, like they've been around a long time. They had the DVDs that you could go rent. I mean, they're not, but all of a sudden, boom, they get the right system, right? They got that formulation finally down. They start getting this 3 to 4 to 5% market penetration, and now everybody has a Netflix account. So, you know, it really is that magical 3 to 4% market penetration if you're getting involved in a new industry. If you're in a profession, like we keep using the insurance because I see KK on here, you know, that's going to be a little bit different, right? So you can still make a lot of money in there, but I'm talking about the multi-millionaires. It's the Googles, the Ubers, the people that are living in Atherton right now, that are, you know, the new rich. And that's where everybody wants to be. So just be really mindful of the timing. Now, can you make money in stability? Of course you can. There's a lot of legacy companies, you know, Herbalife, Shackley, Mary Kay, they're household names now, right? You can still make really good money in there. Can you make the multiple millions and millions? I don't know. You know, I'm not convinced on that. I'm sure maybe somebody can come in there and do that, but that's really some things that you want to look at when you're looking at that. So again, just to kind of recap, make sure that you're evaluating the company, right? If you're into startups and you want to take that kind of risk, do it. If, you know, you align with the management team, do that. My preference is a legacy type company that hasn't hit the timing yet, where all out massive momentum. I think that's a better place to be, because then all the bugs are figured out and they're going to be here today and here tomorrow. And then of course your product or service is, you know, if it's not something that everybody needs and everybody can afford, is it something that you're just so fired up about, that you're passionate about? Great. You know, like I said, like the jet thing, or, you know, maybe it's a jewelry product that you're just jacked out of your head about. You know, that's great. You just really have to make sure it aligns with your values, that you're excited about it. But if you're take the emotion out of it, really think about your product as far as a business. Does it make sense? Is it viable? Is there enough market share? Does everybody have it? And then of course, we're going to look at really, it coincides with the need. You know, do people need what you're offering? Is it saturated? And then of course, we're going to look at the compensation. Is there a way, in my opinion, residual is the only way to go. Is there a residual component? Can you sell it? Can you will it? Can you do things? And then lastly, of course, is really the timing. And real estate, we said, again, it's location, it's business, it's timing, right? And I also, just on a kind of a side here, on franchises and things like that, I also want it to be scalable. That would be the only other kind of thing that I would add on top of these 5 things, because it's one thing if you have a great restaurant, right? But is it scalable? Like, you know, you look at something like Buffalo Wild Wings. I mean, I don't think they have great food, but they have, duplicated themselves. They've scaled it. They've done it. TGI Friday, same thing, not my favorite, but they've done a great job out there of being scalable. So you don't have to be the best either if you're starting something, as long as it's scalable. And so that's kind of the last thing I'm looking at, and I'm evaluating something. Can it grow with you without a lot of pain? Is it the infrastructure set up? Is legislation, in all the different states going to be a hindrance to you? Can you grow it if you want to? Can you grow it out of state? Can you grow it out of the country? Can you grow it, wherever, if you really want to go for the big, big, big money? I know, Chris, you and I are committed to wanting to earn $1 million a year in our home-based businesses. And, we've given this a lot of thought. I mean, you and I have chatted seriously late nights. I mean, you're in Colorado, I'm in California, but how many nights have we been on the phone talking about and dreaming about and thinking about, where really is the best place to be in business? And hopefully that helped you guys. I don't know, Chris, if you have any other quick thoughts before we, because I know you've got to go. We had an hour to do this, but I loved this. This was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up scalability, because I'm reminded of recently what was after the inauguration. The hot trending item on the internet was Bernie Sanders mittens. And those mittens were sewn together by a teacher, I believe it was out in Vermont. And so here's a perfect example where there's one person making mittens, and she had inventory, sold out as soon as those mittens went and they found out where they came from, sold out in one day, and she's not been able to catch up to the need. Yeah. And so what happens if people can't, because this is an instant society. If we can't buy it today, like Amazon, how mad do people get when it's like, what do you mean 5 to 7 days till delivery? Or during the COVID, where they're like, well, it could take 2 weeks. What do you mean 2 weeks? Like I'm paying for this Prime, I expect it tomorrow. And so if your product is based on solely your ability to produce it, this is why they created the Industrial Revolution, is so we could get into mass production. And if you don't have that scalable system in place, you could grow to a point where you destroy your business. So that's amazing there. So I really appreciate you taking up all that, and not to deter, but Ms. Darren, really quickly, would you speak to the fact that one of our top executives in our company, Mr. Donner himself, came across a statistic, and I don't know the origins, so don't quote me on this, but he said the millionaires didn't reach their first million until typically after their 5th to 7th attempt. And so he said, well, I have a few more I could try. So as to not deter people from getting started in a business, what do you recommend to people?
It's so funny that you say that, because some people hit a home run. I know we've got KK on here, and I keep talking to her because she's on here, and I know her pretty well. She hit a home run. She had a system. She grew up in it. Her father did insurance. Now she's done it. It's, you know what I mean? But many of us, we're going to try a few ventures before we hit a home run. And it is so true, because, the school of hard knocks is honestly the worst way to learn. Like, if you could take what we're talking about today, do you see what I'm saying? Like, if someone's done something that you want to do and you could take their advice and consultation, you would cut off a lot of your learning curve and make life a lot smoother for yourself. It's just unfortunate that, I'm a little stubborn. I got to try things for myself. I got to, like, even in our business, there's a system, and I kept trying to do it my way. I want to do it this way, and didn't really work, but I kept doing it anyway. Right. You and I know exactly what I'm talking about with ads and all kinds of kooky things that we've done over the years. So how do I want to say this? I would say experience is the best teacher, but it is a son of a gun. Like, it's the worst. It's the best teacher because you learn the most, because now you know what not to do. But it would be so much easier if you could listen to an interview like this, if you could read a book on how to evaluate opportunities. And the thing that really is interesting to me, Chris Warden, is that they don't teach this stuff in any, like, you go to business school, like my friend has an MBA, she went to business school, and the people teaching her never owned a business. So the avenues that you have, it's a little bit better now because we've got social media and stuff. And you can listen to people like Grant Cardone, who's legit a big business owner. You can listen to people like Eric Worre, who's legit earned millions of dollars in the home-based business. So they're going to help you out a lot more. But when we were starting businesses, that information wasn't out there. And so I feel like if there's a hack, this is why I do this isn't on the fly with Kai, but I do that at 10 a.m. Pacific on Thursdays, because there are hacks, tips and tricks that can take literally years off your learning curve. And it's just unfortunate that information isn't taught in high schools. It isn't taught in college, even when you're going to get your MBA. And this is the stuff that, if your heart sings to you and you're going to ignore one of these 5, then by all means, go for it. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes you're going to not get all of these 5, but at least now you know what to really think about, as opposed to the times before where I only went for income. Literally, that's why I did health insurance. I didn't care about anything else. I want residual income. I don't care. What is it? How do I get it? What do I have to do? That's not a great way to pick a business. I mean, I didn't like it. It wasn't fun for me. I didn't resonate with who I am inside. It didn't have the social justice cause that I'm looking for now. But now that I know and I can help other people, that's the biggest gift that we have. And there are some colleges like University of Illinois teaches home-based business classes in their MBA program, which is fantastic and unheard of. But yeah, if you want to get an education, why not listen to somebody who's done well in business and take some time off your learning curve, as opposed to trying at your own school of hard knocks. That's all I got to say about that, Chris Ward.
Yeah, and I'm laughing because I'm reminded of my economist professor in college. So I studied economics, micro and macroeconomics, and I talked to my professor, and all his only income was his job there at the college. So he wasn't wealthy. He was, and I was just like, here we are studying economics from a person who obviously is not playing the game. So they're book smart, but they just have no field application to it. So really quick, just to wrap up, I really appreciate you, Ms. Daring, for taking the time out. Due to brevity, we didn't have time throughout the presentation to stop and answer questions, but we want to make sure that if you do have any comments or questions, make sure, first of all, you can respond to any of these platforms down in the comments section. Ms. Daring, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you're probably, if you're watching this on YouTube, because I know it's on YouTube as well, check me out on Facebook. My personal page is just Kai.Deering, Deering. You can see it right there. I'm on Instagram, not as much as I should be, not going to lie. Actually, you know what? I don't even think that is my Facebook. So hold on, let me just get you my Facebook. I think that's my Instagram. But my best number, I'll give you my phone number, because I think that's a great way also to be able to reach me. And it is 408-807-7965. So 408-807-7965. And my Facebook it's just Kai A. Deering. Hello. Glad I got that figured out. My Instagram is Kai.Deering. And then LinkedIn, I just think is Kai Deering. So those are some great ways. And I know, Chris, you and I've worked together for years. So, if they want to reach out to you as well, how would they find you and all that good stuff too?
Yeah, on the Instagram, you can find me at Ward of the World. Of course, you can always call me at 720-550-2320. And again, leave your comments. We'll be following the thread and responding to anybody that has any comment section below. So wrap up again. Appreciate you, Ms. Daring. I hope this has been an amazing contribution to you as you start your entrepreneurial journey. We estimate it's over 85% of the population is interested in starting their own business, but it's a lot of the unknowing that prevents people from doing so. So I hope we were brought you from unknowing to knowing. So Ms. Daring, thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, and please share this interview if you liked it, or this discussion, to really help out some of your friends and families there. So thank you so much, Chris Ward. You rock. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Ms. Daring.